Welcome back to this channel, everyone. This is your host speaking, Gerardo Morillo, and we're live. What do you guys want to learn today? What are spirit guides? Sure, we can get to this topic now. What are spirit guides? Spirit guides are essentially thought forms. There are also voices inside your mind, and sometimes can be taken in the form of emotions. And this is because spirit guides are essentially strong thought forms that are bonded inside your mind in a very, very strong form. Essentially, they're basically thought forms. Now, what's cool about spirit guides is that you can create thought forms, and that you can create these spirit guides that will help you, that can team up with you. So essentially, you can create artificial spirit guides. Real characters or imaginary characters can be taken in the form of spirit guides. So did any of you guys ever play Pokemon? That you can have like 6 Pokemon on one team? Well, spirit guides is kind of like the voices inside your mind, and also emotions. So they kind of become your intuition. They team up with you essentially. So you have these voices, you have these emotions, you have these thought processes. There also can be somewhat like alter personalities, where you can change your persona depending on what version of yourself you want to be, essentially, of that day. So you can create multiple different spirit guides to channel. Essentially, a lot of what spirit guides really is hacking your subconscious mind, reprogramming your subconscious mind. And they become like a little mini thought process within your consciousness. So what they are is guides with living inside your consciousness. This is what spirit guides essentially is. Now, there is spirit guides that also live in the metaphysical level, such as, I don't know, an angel of higher power that came down and just is now giving you the answers of some kind. Yes, this can be spirit guides also, but the thing about those things is that that's incredibly rare, hard to prove, probably don't exist. So when we're talking about those things, we're talking about things that probably happens once every 10 years or once every 5 years, and they don't really do us anything. That's just theory land. Theory land. That's what a lot of people love to go and talk theories, but they don't like to do solutions, because solution-based answers are very difficult to do and hard to explain. And that's why I'm stepping into this whole game of life, and I'm providing real answers, real results. This channel should just be called Real Solutions. That's catchy. I like that. This is my cup of coffee here, sometimes known as a cup of joe. I'm using it just to give me a little boost. Sometimes I get bored in certain kind of states, and I want to change and see what kind of state I can get into. I'm all about changing my state so that I'm able to be in a high performance flow, so that I can be at my best when I'm talking to you guys, right? Because I want to be able to deliver high quality messages to you guys in a way that's easy to digest and in a way that's easy to learn from. Alright, so let's continue talking about spirit guides. Spirit guides is another way to hack your consciousness, hack your subconscious mind, and they basically are alive entities, right? But you see, the issue with these terminologies is entities. What is that? An entity is essentially a thought process inside your mind that's alive. That's basically what it is. And you can create these thought forms to assist you in your everyday life, because maybe you can't do it alone. Or maybe you need somehow an easy way to just change your persona, change your psyche, change your consciousness of some kind, this way that you can access certain qualities, attributes, and behaviors that you normally don't have access to in your ordinary consciousness. So you form a pact with different qualities, attributes, and things, such as, for example, video games and anime is a great way for this. Like, if you can take like a character, you say, hey, I like this character, I want to have this character's ability. You form a pact like to to those characters that you can sort of form a thought process in one person. So you absorb those qualities, you absorb those consciousness, those thought processes, those qualities, attributes, and behaviors essentially, and then you form a pact with it, and then you bring it to yourself, you attach it to yourself, and then you put it here. This is a lot of extreme cases of of cuckoo people. They have these thought processes that are alive inside their minds, and sometimes you hear these guys hear voices. It's true, they possibly hear voices, but this sort of thing is very misunderstood and it's wacky. Essentially, your thought processes, voices, old consciousness. You can even create consciousness. Consciousness can be created. It can be engineered. As you can see in the modern reality, a lot of things are engineered. Right? There's personalities, templates are also engineerable. People, walking people, they're engineerable too. Their likes, their dislikes, all subject to engineer. Now, I don't want to really get into that topic. That topic is not really something I want to get into with this video, but the point is that you can engineer your psyche. You can engineer your internal behavior, your internal thinking this way that you modify your behaviors so that you absorb certain qualities and attributes that will benefit you in your ordinary waking life. Because sometimes, as I said previously, it's very difficult to have a persona that you can walk with. So you have to create this persona, so when you're walking in the world, it's very easy to project that persona. Like, just take a look at like books, video games, characters. Like, these things are very awesome ways to see certain kind of personas, personality, qualities, attributes that you may want to embody yourself. I mean, just take a look at why people watch movies. Like, they all project the human elements, the human condition within their media. The thing is that it's just a movie, right? So anything that you get from these type of things are very small glimpses of reality in of itself. So, and also they're taken out of context too, because you have to think about, this is the fantasy world. So when you put it in the real world, they're out of context. And I'm saying this because a lot of people's spirit guides are also the things that they watch, the things that they read, the things that they do all day long, the things that they think about. These are their spirit guides. So you can form a pact with movies. If you replay the same movie over and over, those things will be in your consciousness, and that will be your spirit guide. If you need an example of this, just take a look at children when they're watching cartoons or anime or video games or movies. Just look at what the movie does to their state. Just look at how they. Okay, just look at what they do when they're watching it. They get excited. They get their state gets aroused. They modify their behaviors, and sometimes, like the children, I know this happened with me too, where it's like you absorb the consciousness of like something like the Power Rangers, for example. They become your spirit guide. So when you're walking out in the world, you have this kind of thing inside your psyche. I know I used to watch wrestling too, and I used to have kind of wrestlers inside my consciousness, like Triple H, X-Pac, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock Bottom. So these things, I have them in my consciousness as well, because I used to watch wrestling. And essentially what I'm trying to say is that anything that you watch, anything that you absorb into your mind, becomes part of your consciousness. And they become somewhat your spirit guides. However, in a more advanced way, you can create these spirit guides. And then you can talk to these spirit guides. But the way that most people explain this concept is very metaphysical, very, very wonky. And I will probably update this video so that it's a little bit more practical, so you can actually take action on it in a way that you know how to customize your consciousness in a way that you have access to newer qualities, attributes, and different ways of thinking when needed, on demand. Because that's what we're doing here. We're trying to change our consciousness so that we attract, manifest, and create things, just create the things that we want. trying to think where else I want to talk about with this video here, because I pretty much summed it up very nicely. Spirit guides are essentially your thought processes. You can also modify your thought processes by watching books, reading video games, movies, any sort of thing. Even watching this YouTube video is me going inside your consciousness or your psyche, and then you have maybe some glimpse of me within inside of you. Anytime you interact with something, you're having a transaction, you're having an exchange. This is why religious people, they kind of ban movies. They say don't watch movies, don't do those kind of weird stuff. And I have to give them credit, like some of it is true, but just it can be very extreme too. I used to watch horror movies a lot when I was younger. I would not, if I had to do it again and give myself different advice, I would have not said watch horror movies, because I have Freddy Krueger, I have Jason, I have Michael Myers. I have them in my consciousness. Now they're very they're very small pieces of my consciousness, but when I was little, I had that in my consciousness because that's what I grew up watching. I grew up watching these freaking serial killers, and I grew up watching these horror movies and stuff like that. I would not recommend that at all. I had anime in my consciousness. There's some things that are good for you, and there's some things that are bad for you, okay? Some things that are helpful and some things that are not helpful. You obviously don't want serial killers as part of your consciousness, because this adds thought viruses that I don't want to say will make you a serial killer. I don't want to say that. That's kind of not what it will do, but what it will do is add these thought processes that potentially can make you do harm to someone, alright? But it's very unlikely they will make you a serial killer, alright? If it was the case, we would have a lot more serial killers on the planet. Thankfully we don't. However, any action that's taking place on the physical plane usually is embedded or dropped in the psyche, within the mind first. So before it becomes a physical thing, it becomes a drop in the mental plane. And that's why I am talking about this today, because it's very prevalent also in ties into spirit guides as well. You see a lot of these wacko cases in the movies or in the news even. All of that is just thought processes. All of that is just consciousness. Different kinds of level of awareness, different level of consciousness. And you need to enter inside that person's reality to understand how this person started malfunctioning in the way that they started malfunctioning. Like, what are their thought viruses? What are their thought bugs? Okay? I used to thought this was super complicated. It's not super complicated. It's actually very simple. It's very easy. You just need to understand cause and effect. How certain things affects the psyche. How certain things affects the mind. And from there you can dictate and determine why this behavior is this way. What are these behaviors? So I will be also talking about different levels of personality disorders, certain things like that. But that's really not, that's nothing to me at this point. It's very basic stuff. But what I'm going to be talking about is spirit guides. We talked about it in this video very well. And essentially, spirit guides are your thought processes that you can create. You can team up with thought processes, and you can form new thought processes as if there were actual creatures, as if there were actual beings. So you can create like boom. It's like you have 4 elements that you can team up with. I actually have something cool to show you. I have a very cool thing that I want to show you guys. It's called Frame Control by my buddy George Hutton. He has an awesome program called Frame Control, and within Frame Control there's something called 4 Heroes. And in Frame Control there's something called 4 Heroes. Sorry, I had to say that twice because this thing kind of messed up. And you're guided in a very hypnotic way, which you can create new thought process and new psyche within your consciousness, essentially. If you would like to check that out, sorry, I only have 5 seconds on the clock. Please check out with the link down below. Frame Control by George Harton.